Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our morning Dharma reflections. We'll begin with the reflections on universal well-being. May I
abiding well-being in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abiding well-being in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action, and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and the results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts there will be the heirs.
So continuing to follow Reverend Heng Sure and Marty on their pilgrimage. Today's entries by Reverend Heng Sure, April 11th, 1978, titled, Have His Vocal Cords Frozen. Words. The Bodhisattva by nature does not speak frivolously. He always delights in considered speech, real talk, meaningful speech. Avatamsaka Sutra, 10 Grounds chapter. Little dirt drives lead from the highway up sharp grades to houses sheltered by trees and hills. Occasionally we see bare roof lines, chimneys, lightning rods, but we don't see television antenna. Maybe TV beams don't reach the Big Sur coast. Folks who live without TV have to find other ways to occupy their eyes and ears. Removing the electric buzz of the TV, and a wonderful change happens. Words count more. Speech regains its magic. Silence tunes the mind. The ear rests. The voices of nature reappear and fill the world. A newsman asked Kung Chao, "Your partner hasn't spoken for nearly a year. Have his vocal cords frozen? Has his voice box gone stiff?" Newsmen rely on words. He found it inconceivable that I could survive without talking. The television radio world spits clouds of words into the air. Words as noise, words as produce, a bushel a minute. No value remains in meaning. Words without heart. Heng Chao and I share a surprising truth with our Big Sur neighbors. Zhuangzi said it well. Words hold meaning. Get the meaning, you can forget the word. Where can I find someone who has forgotten words so that we might have a chat? I used to talk like a machine gun. Words ricocheted through my mind nonstop, full of cliches, jargon, junk words, and jingles learned from TV. My speech was trite and as light as feathers. Because we experience life through symbols of language, the way we speak creates our reality. Talk less, make words count, and the world expands in all directions, clear and vast, as the Big Sur sky. Words pass on awareness. People experience life and share their knowing through symbols charged with meaning. Words. Steinbeck wrote, "They are simple, stately, dignified words, fresh and young words, proud and sharp words, word as dainty as little girls, and stone words needing no adjectives as crutches." The wonder of voicing knowledge, speech. Talk is rich sharing. Each person's talk contains different rhythms, feelings, music, pain, colors, tones, choices, echoes of entire civilizations. The Bodhisattva's eloquence includes eloquence in Dharma, in principle, in phrasing, and delight in speech. That is to say, a pure joy in handling words. Holding my tongue has opened my ears to the magic of words. So Heng Sure, being silent, gets a chance to really reflect on the words that he's used throughout his life, and probably also the words that are going on in his mind. During this, maybe say 8 months being in the monastery with the men here, and actually I'll say throughout my time learning the Dharma, I found reflecting on my speech, reflecting on the words that I use, be a very important Dharma practice. And there's a teaching by the Buddha that I find very helpful. He says that when we speak, there are 5 factors for well-spoken speech. First factor, truthful. Second factor, timely. Third factor, beneficial. And then fourth factor and fifth factor are related. It's gentle speech, and am I speaking from a place of loving kindness? Is there a care in my heart? And I thought a story from our tradition, from the Pali Canon, that really illustrates this, is an exchange with a prince and the Buddha. So this story begins with a leader of another religious group called Naganta, who approaches a prince named Prince Abhaya. And he tells Prince Abhaya, "Oh, do you know? You want to be renowned in all the world as the prince who outdebated the Buddha who's so respected, so powerful, but you will be known as the one who outdebated him." The prince gets a little bit curious. "Oh, yeah, that'd be pretty good. You know, how would I do that?" And this religious leader says to the prince, "Now I'll give you a method. You ask the Buddha a question. Do you say words that are unpleasing, that are unpleasant, people don't like? And if he says yes, then you can get him right there. You say, see, you're just like an ordinary person saying things that people don't like, that people find unpleasing, that people find unpleasant. Just an ordinary person, and you've won." Or if he says, "No, I don't say things that are unpleasing," then you also have him, because you can say, "Well, haven't you spoken words that are unpleasant about Devadatta? You know, saying that he's done things that will cause him to fall into the hells, that he will suffer for a long time, that he will be, he's very in difficult straits. Haven't you said that?" right? So you catch him in a contradiction and you have beaten the Buddha. So Prince thinks this over. Interesting. And his religious leader goes on, he says, and this is just like a two-horned chestnut. Imagine a nut with two hooks at the end. And he says, you swallow it and it gets stuck in your throat. And you can't spit it out and you can't swallow it down. It's just like what you'll do to the Buddha. He won't know what to say and he'll be caught. So the prince goes, okay, that's an interesting method. So I'm going to go and talk to the Buddha. So he goes, approaches the Buddha, and it's a little bit late in the day, so after he pays his respects, he realizes this is maybe not a good time to bring it up. It's too late in the day, right? Not timely. He uses his wisdom, but not for, or discernment, but not for wholesome purposes. Says, okay, O world honored one, I would like to invite you to my home tomorrow for the noon meal. Would you accept? And the Buddha accepts through his silence. And so the prince goes home, prepares the meal. The next day the Buddha comes to his home. And the prince offers food. Everything's taken care of. And the prince, pays his respects. I have a question. Right? And so what does he ask the Buddha? The question that the other religious leader gave him. Says, world honored one, O Tathagata, I have a question. Does the Tathagata say words that are unpleasing to people, that people don't like, that are unpleasant? The Buddha looks at him and says, there's no categorical yes or no answer to your question. Or there's no absolute yes or no. The prince looks like the Buddha, thinks to himself, where do I go from here? That wasn't the answer I was expecting. And so he says, actually right there, you've conquered Nigantha. And the Buddha says, what do you mean? He says, well, to be honest, that question was a setup. I was encouraged by another religious leader to challenge you. He said, I would outdebate you by asking this question. And he goes over the whole story. And then Buddha says, okay. At that time, Prince Abhaya had also a little boy on his lap, I think his son. And the story goes that he had the son on his lap because if he actually got into a debate with the Buddha, at any point if he thought he was starting to lose, he could pinch the baby and the baby would start crying. He said, I have to take care of the baby. And off he would go, And that would end the debate. So he had a little bit of a backup plan. But the Buddha asked the prince, so if the baby, your son, were to swallow a stick or a pebble and he gets stuck in his throat, what would you do? The prince said, I would grab my child and turn back his head and I'd go in and pull out the pebble or the stick, even if it would draw blood. I'd save his life because I really care about my child. And the Buddha said, just like your care for the child is how I speak to the living beings. And Buddha goes through a list. And basically there's 3 factors he goes over. Truthful, beneficial, and pleasing. He says if it's not truthful, if it's not beneficial, and it's not pleasing, the Tathagata does not say it. If it's truthful, if it's not truthful, beneficial, and not pleasing. Truthful, not beneficial. Okay, I got my 6th list wrong. But let me just say it this way, rather than go through all 6. Basically, the Buddha says, if it's truthful and beneficial, but not pleasing, the Buddha waits for the proper time. If it's truthful, pleasing, truthful, beneficial, and pleasing, the Buddha also waits for the proper time. The Buddha doesn't say things that are not truthful or not beneficial. But for the pleasing or not pleasing, he waits for the appropriate time. He says, I say this because out of care for living beings. I think this is very interesting as a reflection for us and in a way to really read the suttas and the Buddha's teachings. That all of the Buddha's words are spoken from a place of truthfulness and benefit, from a heart of real care, wanting to pull us out of suffering. And so I think this story is a good example of skillful speech. So much so that at the end of it, Prince Abhaya is inspired and actually takes refuge with the Buddha. So maybe today, we can use the day to kind of reflect on our speech. Before we speak, we can reflect, is what I say truthful? Is it beneficial? Is it something that's pleasing? Right? Will it be something that some people will delight in? Is it something that is timely, spoken at the right time? And am I speaking from a heart of loving kindness? So I think that's actually a very important principle for all of us. So using our speech well. Okay, so maybe just that much for this morning. We do 3 steps, 1 bow.